Hello, everyone. My name is Massimiliano Gori, and I'm the Identity and Access Management Product Manager at Canonical. And I'm joined by Rajan Patel, who is the Product Manager for Landscape. Today, we are going to talk about how you can add Entra ID authentication on Ubuntu Desktop, not only in isolation, but also how you can do it at scale together with Landscape and cloud-init. The agenda for today is that we will first talk about Authd, which is the new authentication daemon for Ubuntu. We will then look at cloud-init and how that can be leveraged to automate some of the installation steps. Then Rajan will take it over. We'll give an intro to Landscape, the system management tool for Ubuntu, and how that can be used to take this solution at scale in your organization, and finally close with a Q&A. So moving on, what is Authd? Authd is a new authentication daemon for Ubuntu. We released it at the end of 2024 for Ubuntu both server and desktop 2404 and 2410. It is available via a supported PPA, which will become part of the official archive soon. Authd leverages the O2 device authorization grant to make sure that you can use your favorite cloud identity providers to authenticate your users to Ubuntu. At launch, at the time of recording this video, Microsoft Entra ID is the first identity broker that is supported through a dedicated snap. But we are already working on additional providers, both for the community as well as for the organization. And the next one that will be released will be Google Workspace for enterprises and the traditional Google SSO for individuals, and additional providers will come in the coming months. So let's now take a look at the Authd architecture. While throughout the presentation we will refer to Authd as a single entity, in reality it's actually made of two different pieces. The first piece is PPA that interacts with all the different system services like SSHD and PAM and NSS. And in a way, if we can go back, exposes an API that is consumed over dbus by a series of the identity brokers. The identity brokers are snaps that connect on the one side with the interface that is exposed by the Authd PPA, and on the other side, they act as clients for the cloud identity providers. And in normally, you can have one or more of these different snaps, meaning that you can support as many identity providers as you want on each one of your own machines. As we said before, Authd is supported on both. This architecture allows us to support both Ubuntu Desktop and Ubuntu Server, effectively making Ubuntu the first and only Linux distribution at this stage that is able to support authentication with cloud identity providers without the need for third-party services like, for example, FreeIPA. Now, let's have a look at how Authd can be installed on the desktop. We work to simplify, standardize the installation procedure. Obviously, the first prerequisite step is to register an application on Entra ID or any other cloud identity provider that is supported. And after that, you will need to add the Authd PPA and install the Authd deb. This you need to do for both desktop and server, but specifically for the desktop because we also want to support interactive authentication via GTM. You also need to install additional GNOME shell and Yarrow team GNOME shell debs. This are the parts of the system that allow the, for example, display of the QR code. After that, you need to install the snap, in this case, the Authd MS Entra ID. and edit the configuration file inside the snap to add the client ID and client credentials, and then finally restart the services. Before looking at like how it looks visually on the desktop, let's actually have a look at the configuration file. So in the first section, you actually see the field for the issuer and the client ID. I mean, these files, they will have a slightly different formatting depending on the specific identity provider. And the file that you're seeing here is the one for the Entra ID one. You can specify the home base directory, and so you can also create a dynamic path, and this will be different for each one of the users. And you can also specify a set of allowed SSH suffixes. So in this case, the example.com that you see here. In the future, we are planning to add additional configuration options. So basically, specifically an allow list. So only allowing a specific user or a specific email address to effectively authenticate to the machine. And we are also planning to add support for group support for privilege management. While today you can set some specific groups on the entity provider to command, for example, sudo access, we are going to extend the configurability of that even further, allowing you to specify arbitrary groups. This is not available at the moment, but it is due to come in the coming months and future versions of the Authd tab and stuff. So moving over to what that looks like on Ubuntu Desktop after you have everything installed. So after you install everything and you reboot the system, you will be presented with a choice, a login choice. On the bottom case, if you click on local, you will basically input your traditional local credentials as if nothing was installed. But if you select Microsoft Entra ID, you will see a big kind of like QR code presented on screen. And in order to complete the authentication flow, you need to use a secondary device. It can be another laptop or desktop, or it can be your phone. And if you access that URL, in this case, I'm doing it here on a browser, you will see that I'm first prompted for the device authentication code. That is, if you scan the QR code, this field will already be pre-populated, but if not, you will need to enter the code to just make sure that to validate the device that is actually making the request. And after that, you will complete a normal MS Entra ID authentication. In this case, we support whatever rules. We do not require the modification of any authentication rules that you've already set up on your directory, meaning that whatever rule and compliance policy that you have already set will remain intact, and we do not require any modification because of the fact that, as I said, we are using the device flow, so something akin to what you're normally used to on your TV when you're, for example, using Netflix. After you have completed the authentication flow, you will be presented again with a screen to enter a local password. What is happening in this case? A new user is added to the machine, and the user will be basically the username will be the email of the person that completed a successful authentication attempt, and that's where you set up a local password. In this specific case, why do we set up like a local password? That is to cater for the cases where there is, for example, a loss of connectivity, and when the laptop or the desktop in this case cannot reach the MS Entra ID server. Either way, the time interval for which the password is still valid, or the time interval for which the server or the desktop is allowed to remain offline and not told to the Entra ID server, is a configuration value that can be edited in the setting. By default is 90 days, just like every other Windows machine. So let's move on and talk about cloud-init, and how can that installation process be automated. So cloud-init is the industry standard when it comes down to cloud instance initialization. It is supported across all major public cloud providers, and also other distribution, provisioning system, and bare metal installation. So it is, in a way, the de facto standard to automate the first boot and provisioning of new machines. In the following slides, we have presented, we will show kind of like some snippets of how you can leverage cloud-init to automate installation. So in the first section of the cloud-init file, we can basically set our variables, in this case, the client ID and the issuer ID. Right now, I mean, we are setting this file here, but you can also fetch these values from a secret management store that sits outside of your machine. Moving on to the second section of the cloud-init installation, what we are doing here is adding the ODPPA and then installing the 3 required dev packages. In the case of server, you will only install OD, but again, since we are also interested in the GDM login part, we're also adding the GNOME shell and the Yarrow team part, and then finally installing the snap. In the final part of the file, we are setting the issuer ID and client ID part of the configuration file, setting a specific login timeout, and moving over the configuration file. In order for the changes to take effect, you will need either to reboot the machine or restart the services. Now, I will hand it over to Rajan, who will talk about how can this solution be deployed at scale in an enterprise where maybe you have 1,000 or several hundreds of Ubuntu machines.
Thanks, Massi. So in the latest version of Ubuntu 24.04, the installer itself can consume the auto-install configuration file. Now, the auto-install configuration file is structured the same way as that cloud-init file that Massi had mentioned earlier. And it can be provided to Ubuntu during the installation phase. And so that would be the preferred way to provision machines with Authd out of the gate. But sometimes you may have an estate where provisioning has already been completed, and you're in a position where you need to manage what has already been provisioned. Laptops may already be at employees' houses, or you may already have existing VDIs running in the cloud. However your deployments may be, Landscape can help you either at the provisioning stage or at the subsequent management stage to get Authd rolled out across your estate. So Landscape is a systems management solution for Ubuntu, and it leans into your existing systems administration experience, and it doesn't require learning new languages or any new frameworks. Landscape can distribute software, and it can distribute software updates. So in addition to patching, Landscape can audit and inventory other aspects of your Ubuntu Linux estate. So it uses either shell scripting or the Landscape API to extend the native capabilities, and it can integrate with third-party software or your own proprietary tools. It's available in 3 editions: as a self-hosted offering, or through a software as a service model hosted on Canonical's cloud, or as a managed offering. The same source available code base is responsible for each of these editions. A new version of Ubuntu is published every 6 months, with a long-term LTS version that gets published every 2 years. And Landscape evolves with Ubuntu's cadence. So self-hosted Landscape can be installed from beta or stable repositories. And Landscape Beta is not intended for production use, but it provides an early glimpse of new features. And so when Landscape Beta features mature, they're promoted to Landscape SaaS. And SaaS is the acronym for Software as a Service. And Landscape SaaS runs entirely in the United Kingdom data centers of Canonical's continuously upgraded and global cloud infrastructure. Now, Managed Landscape is deployed either on-premise or to any public cloud. And Managed Landscape marries the features of self-hosted Landscape with the convenience of Landscape SaaS and is customized to meet any resiliency, redundancy, and high availability requirements. So to get started, first you'll want to enroll your machines into Landscape. It starts with attaching your Ubuntu Pro token to your machines. All Ubuntu machines have the Pro client installed, so you can run the Pro attach command. And to get your token, you just go to ubuntu.com/pro/dashboard. Once you get your token, you run the Pro attach token command. Next, you're able to run Pro enable Landscape. So as of Ubuntu 24.04 and onwards, this is the simplest way to get enrollment into a Landscape server. It's one easy to remember Pro client command, Pro enable Landscape. And so when you run this in the CLI, you're going to enter a wizard. It's going to ask you some questions, and it will configure the machine. At the end of the wizard, you're going to get an example configuration command. And that example command can be used as a template for all of your other machines. So instead of running Pro enable Landscape, you can run that other command, and all of the other machines are going to be enrolled in the same way as this initial machine after consuming your wizard answers. It's a non-interactive enrollment, whereas this is an interactive enrollment. That's an easier way of putting it. So the wizard only asks the bare minimum questions for enrollment, but enabling the script execution capability gives Landscape deeper configuration management powers. And to enable the script execution capability, you want to include the plugin in the Landscape configuration file. So that's what this echo statement does, is it writes the instruction to include that plugin in the Landscape client configuration file. Next, we provide which user accounts Landscape will be allowed to run scripts as. And so the recommended options are to enable root, and also the Landscape service account and nobody. So in Ubuntu, the nobody account is a special system user with limited privileges, and it's typically used by the operating system to run processes where a specific user identity isn't required, essentially acting as a placeholder when a trusted user cannot be determined. And it's a security measure to prevent malicious activity if a process gets compromised. So once Pro enable Landscape has been run and the Landscape configuration file has been updated, you can verify that it looks correct. The two arrows show you which lines we added to the configuration manually using the echo statements in the previous slides. Restarting the Landscape client service applies the changes in the configuration file. So in total, 5 lines are needed to enroll your machine into Landscape. The Pro enable Landscape interactive wizard can be substituted with the one-line non-interactive option that the wizard is going to produce for you. And once your machines are enrolled in Landscape, you can roll out the Authd configurations at scale. So let's add a script to Landscape that can do this. So after logging into the Landscape web portal, click Scripts on the left-hand side navigation and click the Add Script button. First, you need a script. So create an empty file using your favorite editor for shell scripts, and then obtain the client ID and issuer ID from the Azure web portal and set them as variables. Next, the script should perform the software installations required for Authd to work. So on line 4, we're adding the deb repository so that the GNOME packages with the Authd capabilities can be installed. On line 5, we're performing an update and upgrade so that we've got the latest version of all of our software. And on line 6, we're installing the GNOME packages from the Authd repository. And on line 7, we're going to snap install the Authd Entra ID software. So after that software has been installed, it's time to update 2 configuration files. Using the variables defined on line 2 and 3, we're going to update the broker configuration file on line 8 to include the credentials from the Azure Web Portal. Now, the etc folder contains system-wide configuration files for Ubuntu and all of the software installed on Ubuntu. So next, we're going to update the etc login.defs file to support 360-second timeouts instead of the default 60 seconds to make the login page more accessible for users who need extra time to type their credentials. Next, we're going to copy a configuration file provided by the Authd Entra ID snap package to the etc authd brokers.d directory. So we want to make that configuration file available system-wide. Now, to apply the changes from the software updates, the configuration file changes, and to experience the new login experience, you want to reboot the entire system. That will be the easiest way to restart all the services and then see the new login. So this is the full script, and we're ready to take it into landscape. So once you've clicked that Add Script button, first, you want to title the script. So here I've titled it Configure Authd, and then I'm going to paste it into the code block and set the Run As User to root. The global access group allows this script to be run against any computer enrolled in landscape. Then click Add Script. So next, you have the option to run this Configure Authd script, and you can run it across your entire estate, or you can target a specific machine. You can target by tags or by names. So you have an option to have a sweeping coverage across your entire estate, or attack your estate by specific cross sections of machines. Once you've chosen where you want to run the script and you've queued up the script, you have to sit back and wait for the execution to complete. I'll jump back and show you how you can do some of these things more natively inside landscape. There are certain configurations that you have performed inside that script that can be enforced using some of landscape's native policy enforcement capabilities. Let's take a look at the Launchpad page for the Authd stable package. If you expand the technical details about this PPA menu, then you're going to be presented with the address for the PPA, and that you would want to copy and paste into landscape. I'll show you where in a moment. And you'll also take note of the signing key. So you want to click into the signing key, and you want to obtain the public key. So then click inside that public key and download the resulting file. This is going to be your public key that you want to insert into landscape. Next, in landscape, go to the repositories and GPG keys section and import this key. You can give the name as Authd. There's no hard requirements around naming. It's just so that you can keep track of what key belongs to what. And paste that key inside the material block and click Import Key. So now you've got the public GPG key for that PPA. Next, you want to click on Repositories and apt sources. And that deb line that I had mentioned on the previous web page is what we're going to add as an APT source. So click the Add APT Source button, give this repository a name, Authd seems to make sense, and then paste that apt line as found on that Launchpad page earlier. Select the appropriate GPG key, the one that we just imported, and for the access group, I'm leaving it as global access so that this repository configuration is available to any machine that I choose to assign it to that's enrolled inside landscape. And then click the Add APT Source button. So now you're going to see that this APT source is available inside of landscape. Next, you would want to create a repository profile. A repository profile is going to ensure that any machine that is assigned to that repository profile is going to have that particular repository configuration. And then we can choose if it's going to be all the machines or if it's going to be a selection of machines. So click on Add Repository Profile. And we'll give it a title, Authd. If our access group is global access, we're going to be applying it to all of the machines in our estate. And I'm selecting the Associate to all instances in this access group checkbox. So no machine is going to be left untouched as a result of this action. Next, click the APT Sources tab on the top and select the Authd repository, and then click Add Repository Profile. So now you have created the repository profile and associated it to the machines that you want to target. Adding the repository profile alone is not enough. Once you've set that repository on those machines, you also want to trigger the installation of the package if it is not on that machine or if it has been removed from that machine. So let's add a package profile. Click on the Add Package Profile button, and then give that profile a name. Because we're targeting Authd, it makes sense to give that as the name. And then for the description, just a human readable explanation of what this package profile is about. If we're adding, OIDC SSO for Ubuntu. Under Access Group, we're selecting Global Access again and associating this package profile to all the instances in our Ubuntu estate. So under Package Constraints, we've left it as Enter Manually, and we're adding the constraint for Authd, and the rule is set to any. What this means is that we want to get the latest version of the Authd package. So if there is an update, we want to make sure that the most up-to-date version of that Authd package is is available to all of the machines. So go ahead and click Add Package Profile. So the profile has been added successfully. So you may find, as the rollout happens, that certain computers will get flagged as non-compliant. So when you're encountered with that situation, you may need to approve an activity if that's the way that your permissions have been configured. And if a package profile tried to be applied before the repository profile had taken effect, the package profile may not have been successful. So you have the ability to redo any actions that have failed. And eventually you will get to a point where the Authd package is available on all of the machines. Next, you will want to install the snap package. So we accomplished this earlier using the script, but if you want to use the web portal to accomplish this, this is the way you would do it. Go ahead and click the Install Snap button after drilling into your machine instance in landscape and clicking on the Snaps tab. And then search for the Authd MS Entra ID snap package, pick which version you would like and click Add. You'll see a listing of all of the installed snaps, including the one that you have just chosen to install. So if you want to take your solution to production with Ubuntu Pro, there's a bit more to Ubuntu Pro than just landscape. You get expanded security patching with Ubuntu Pro. And expanded security patching is now going to include security patches for all of the packages that are available in Ubuntu Universe. So historically, the security patching was limited to only the open source software that comprised Ubuntu itself. And open source software from the universe was packaged and made available by Canonical. But security patches were not something that Canonical had made any commitments about. But now Canonical is making commitments to give you security patches for open source packages in Universe. And in Landscape, you will see if a package is getting a security update and it's in Universe on day one, that on day one of the LTS release. So it is possible that you're going to see value from this expanded security patching on day one of an Ubuntu LTS release. We've got some examples on this diagram that show you the open source packages for Ubuntu itself in this Ubuntu infrastructure square. And with it, you historically get 5 years of security patching and support. And then with Ubuntu Pro, you get an additional 5 years, bringing you to a total of 10. And when you're adding Ubuntu Pro with Universe, then you get 34,000 packages that get covered in the same way. Massi, do you have anything that you would wish to add? Does that about cover?
Yeah, I think that if you keep on clicking to complete the animation, I think that you will see that we have a combination both of let me just say traditional packages that you would use on Linux. We cover all the programming services. We offer, for example, security support for Java, for OpenJDK, all the way till 2034, and with additional TCK validation, but also offer a whole host of, let me just say, what we call more distributed solutions, both in the forms of Ubuntu packages, but also as containers. So if you actually go to the open source to the next slide, you will see that there is a whole host set of applications that we cover, and our let me just say our strategy is to make sure that we have we offer security support and automation regardless of the operating environment or chosen infrastructure type that you're using, meaning that if you are using containers or servers, we do offer an artifact, a security supported artifact, and also potentially like a software operators for the case where there is a greenfield deployment. So if we how do we do that? If we move over to the next slide, we, in addition to landscape that we just discussed, we have two more system lifecycle management components or solutions in Canonical. One is MAS, that is our solution for bare metal provisioning, that allows to do everything that is related to like a very wide and vast catalog of like hardware, like enterprise grade hardware, and Juju, that is our on the opposite end of the stack, is the solution that we use to automate lifecycle management of all applications, including for example, the installation, update, and upgrade of landscape, as well as the integration and orchestration of applications that are not only within the same cloud, but also across multiple clouds. So these are sort of like all solutions that you get automatically the moment you enroll machines in Ubuntu Pro. So in this webinar, we talked about Authd, which is something that is free for everybody. We talked about landscape, that is an Ubuntu Pro only feature for sort of like automating and automating the deployment and the management of the Authd configuration across like a large estate of hundreds or thousands of servers and desktop. But again, there are also all this other set of solution and packages that come together with Pro in the same software subscription for no additional cost. And with that, I wanted to thank you for being with us. And also, we have this is the second webinar that we've done on OD and on let me just say how to use Ubuntu together with enterprise-grade identity providers. We've done another one that was more specific on server, which you can also find the link in the comments, and you can go and watch if you have a slightly different set of targets, because OD, as I said, has been works just as well for the authentication of SSH sessions as it does for GDM login. Thanks a lot for being with us, and we would like to open it to the Q&A.
Great. Thanks.